Hello! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to do my worst books of 2020.
Oh hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Hello, I just want to say sorry for the background of this video. If I leave the door closed, my dog chooses to rebel until she can escape. Later, she leaves and the door will be closed. But please, bear with me for now.
Obviously, I'm just gonna do the typical booktube disclaimer. If these are some of your favorite books, that's okay. We can dislike things and still be friends. I am not attacking your character. Maybe these books are great and I'm wrong. It's okay. With that out of the way, we're going to do the most disappointing and worst books. So essentially I have a list of 10 books. The bottom 2 are more disappointing reads rather than worst books, essentially. So coming in at the number 10 spot, we have Shine by Jessica Jung. So like I explained in my wrap-up, Jessica Jung was the lead singer of a K-pop group called Girls' Generation. And so this book was essentially created to kind of speak on her experience or be like a reflection of the experience and really dive into the ways that the K-pop industry is harmful on younger girls and guys, but so I really did want to like this book. This is one of the books on the list. I think the reason it's so disappointing is because I love K-pop and I really wanted to read a book that dived into the many atrocities that young K-pop stars face. But the book overall really doesn't dive into it to the level that I was expecting. The plot of the novel really felt like all over the place. I was really being told a lot of things but never shown things. Additionally to that, the characters of the book, including the main character, were all extremely surface level. I didn't really care about them or what was happening to them or the overall general events of the book. I had really high hopes for this one and it just didn't live up to, I think, my expectations. It wasn't the worst book I read, but it was definitely the most disappointing. Then on that same vein of disappointing books, we have another really hyped book. I don't know if it was I don't know if this was from 2019 or 2020, but I am talking about Wilder Girls by Rory Power. So this essentially maybe was not the year to read this because this follows a group of schoolgirls who are quarantined in their school on an island because there is like a toxic virus that affects them, and you know, maybe not the year to read this. The reason this book was so disappointing to me is because I really did feel like I didn't read the same book as everybody else. Like everybody was hyping this book so much and I just feel like it was not the same. On a positive note, I think Rory Power has a lot of potential, which is why I did see this book through to the end. The premise of the novel is obviously extremely interesting, and if you're into horror and like body horror stuff, I think she did a really good job with descriptions. I think her writing is extremely atmospheric. Most reviews for this novel like pinpoint the ending as being the most disappointing factor of the book, but for me it was just an overall disappointing book. Much like with Shine, I never felt connected to the characters. I never cared really what was happening to them. I found the characters to be initially lackluster in the beginning and then that just carried on through to the end. I probably would have DNF'd this if I didn't want to like it as much as I did, and for that reason it falls more towards the most disappointing book that I read rather than the actual worst book I read. Then for an author whose other book is on my best books of the year, we have 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl by Mona Awad. So this book basically follows a woman named Lizzie who lives in Mississauga, Ontario. This mainly focuses on Lizzie's terrible relationship with her body. So it starts with this introduction to Lizzie and how when she starts dating boys, she's like afraid to send them pictures and afraid to be herself around them. And then when she starts to lose weight, it's kind of this like downward spiral into becoming this judgmental person. And even though she's losing the weight, she just doesn't lose this feeling of self-deprecation and lack of confidence. I had many thoughts about this book, and I think when I talk about my best books of the year, you'll see the same. I think Mona Awad is a very interesting writer, and I understand what she was doing with this book. So essentially, the goal theme of the book is to say that no matter what weight you are, if you're not initially happy, you won't be happy, and the problems within yourself are still there. Personally, and this might be a me thing, I found this book to be extremely triggering. Reviews for the novel depict Elizabeth or Lizzie as this character who is extremely quirky, and I really did not find her to be quirky. I found her to be rather dark actually, and very self-deprecating, and that was kind of triggering for me. I have said some of the quotes she told herself in this book, so I know she is supposed to be depicted as a relatable main character, but I just couldn't bring myself to give her an ounce of sympathy despite understanding how this character felt. I really enjoyed Mona Awad's prose, which is something I will praise in another video, but I just couldn't get past what was ultimately an unenjoyable main character. Okay, now we're moving into the books I actually think shouldn't have been written this year. So the first of which is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. Are we surprised? I obviously love the Hunger Games. I reread them in 2019 or 2020 in preparation for this book. Katniss Everdeen was a main character that I really enjoyed when I read the books in high school, but this was just not it. Essentially, this is kind of a prequel story of the Hunger Games that follows Coriolanus Snow. He's like young and like working in the capital. We're supposed to feel bad for him because he's struggling in life. In order to move up in the rankings in school, he essentially becomes a mentor for a girl from District 12 in the what Hunger Games is this? 10th annual Hunger Games. The first time I read this, I ended up giving it a 3 stars just because I understood that this was a really divisive book, but I wasn't really feeling positive or negative about it. I really hated the reading experience of this. Every character was god-awful or boring, except the character of Sejanus. So he was the only like redeeming factor of this book. I did enjoy learning about the 10th Hunger Games, I guess, or like understanding where things that we saw in the Hunger Games series, how they came into effect from this book and how President Snow had an impactful change on the way the Hunger Games works. Like understanding how mutts and jabberjays came to fruition, but did it really need to be within a 500-page book? I don't think so. The information that I received from this, the things I enjoyed from this could have came from a Hunger Games encyclopedia. It would have essentially been the same to me because I didn't enjoy the plot and I only enjoyed those like little Easter eggs and little additional information. I didn't do really anything else. Again, I like that Suzanne Collins didn't force me to like President Snow. She kind of showed that he was always a piece of shit, but I think she should have done a better job with Lucy Gray. That's the girl from District 12. I didn't like her at all either. She was like a confusing anomaly, and I think it was such like a rolling eye moment that she was from District 12 and we just happened to never hear about her again in the future series. In general, like I like the information that was the foundation for the Hunger Games, but the story was just so boring and I couldn't wait to finish this and put it down. And the more that I thought about this book over the course of the year, the more I wanted to lower it to 2 stars, which I did, and that's why it is like in the middle of my list of the worst books I read in 2020. Then I would advise my friend Daniela to please look away because one of the books I have on this list is The Martian by Andy Weir. Me and Andy Weir, we just do not get along. We're not friends and I'm giving up. Basically, The Martian follows this guy named Mark Watney as he's kind of left to die or survive on Mars. Because he is a botanist and an engineer, he is able to utilize what he has on Mars to extend his life and kind of survive. The 2 things I have read from Andy Weir in 2020, I think Andy Weir is a worst of 2020 in general. Like the 2 things I've read from him, I've given it 2 stars. Watney's story was nothing but lackluster in this book. There was literally nothing thrilling about his time being stuck on Mars. Like after 100 pages maybe, like let me give Andy Weir the benefit of the doubt, maybe after 100 pages I was able to predict the ending, just because and for the sheer fact that every single problem that Mark Watney faced, he was able to solve it. And it just never seemed like anything bad was going to happen to him. And to be honest, the scenes that showcase the NASA team and his old team that is stuck in space without him were miles better to me than Mark Watney's story himself. Like I didn't even care about him. I just wanted to read about the other people. This was definitely like a chore to read and definitely a book I now have a distaste for. Then another book that sorely disappointed me this year is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I completely forgot that I read this book this year.
I also got rid of it, lol.
I read this probably right before the pandemic, February around. So if that doesn't tell you how poor I think this novel is, my main criticism is that this book is so forgetful. A lot of people paint this book to be extremely scary and how it pulls you in and you can't escape and everything is happening and you're gonna have nightmares. And listen, I am the biggest baby on this planet. And this book, I would read a couple of chapters, knock right out. Go right the fuck to bed. To get into the nitty-gritty of the novel, I think the beginning portion of the book is the book's best part. It was interesting, and both points of view in the novel are really separate and really different. And so because they were so different in their own respect, I was really intrigued by them. Without really getting into details, I think the different writing styles of both perspectives really began to annoy me by the middle point of the book. The plot of the house was really engaging and entertaining, but the academic jargon in this book was absolutely nonsensical, not necessary. I actually think the academic language in the book did the novel a disservice, and I think it could have been way more impactful were it to have more simple language. I was super excited by this book, and I think this is the book I was the most excited for, and it just sorely disappointed me. So that's why it's much higher on this list than the other books that kind of disappointed me this year. This was something I was really looking forward to reading, and just wasn't it. Next, we have a book I think I also read in February or January. Anything that happened before March in 2020 is a complete blur to me. Next, we have 7 Days by Patrick Sénécal. This is a Montreal or Quebec author. Me and Danny over at Current Chapter decided to read this for our work buddy read. And I think we both regret it. So this is a kind of revenge story that has a lot of content warnings. There's murder, there's rape, there's pedophilia, there is abuse, there is animal abuse. A lot of triggers that I would definitely look up if you want to go into this, but essentially it follows a father named Bruno Hamel. His daughter was sexually assaulted and murdered by a pedophile. What the father does is capture said pedophile and abuse him for 7 days in a chalet. And this book is supposed to kind of like explore the limits of revenge. This novel was, as you can see by the description, extremely difficult to read. Part of the reason why I didn't enjoy this book was because the scenes were so incredibly graphic. I would have been fine if I think they were necessary to the book, but a lot of them didn't feel necessary at all. I think Sénécal could have done an equal job were he to have put less or even none at all in certain instances.
So what I'm trying to say here is that I'm not too sure if this book in general needed to be written. Like, I understood the purpose of the book and I understood why Sénécal would choose to add the graphic nature to the book. I think what I'm trying to say is that I don't know if this book feels necessary. I understand the point. It is about our need for revenge, our need to protect our children, our need to do wrong unto others who have done wrong onto us, the disgustingness of the content warnings that I mentioned previously. I just don't see the need for a book as graphic as this one was.
This just overall wasn't a great experience. Now we're down to my 1-star reads of the year. So the first of which is Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. And I hated this book so much. So like, yes, does Eugenides have Pulitzer Prize winning writing? Sure. But this book was written without consulting a single... Sorry for the change. My mom came home and my dog absolutely needed to leave to go see her. So we were talking about Middlesex and how Jeffrey Eugenides just absolutely did not consult any intersex individuals when writing this novel, and it's very clear. On top of that, he continuously used a intersex slur throughout the novel. He additionally called the first woman that the main character falls in love with the object, like she was the object. He continuously fetishized Asian women within the book, and like, I could literally go on about why this book is a slice of garbage pizza, and I would not be able to do it justice. I will leave a link up above or down below for Hans Lindahl's own Voices review on the novel. I think they do a far better job at explaining what is wrong with this novel than I can do. I didn't think I was gonna put this book this high on my worst books of the year, but the experience of reading this book, it deserved to be here. I have an entire vlog as to why I hate this book. I'm not gonna go into details. I'm done talking about this. Every video that I post that has Dune in it gets a dislike. So when I finished this book on Goodreads, my review was, thank God, because this was a chore to read. It was boring. I think it's so overhyped for no reason. I think the writing is garbage. I think the world building is garbage. And I think Paul Atreides as a main character is garbage. If you want to know more about that, go watch the vlog. Otherwise, I'm done talking about this book. Now you must be telling yourself, Kelsey, the last 2 books filled you with such rage. What could possibly be your worst book of the year? Well, friends, Fisa Sparks by Sierra Simone is my #1 worst book of 2020. This is the second book in the Thorn Chapel series, the first one being A Lesson in Thorns. I actually gave that book 4 stars. I really enjoy this series. I think the series is interesting. I think the dark academia setting of the series is fascinating. The mystery surrounding Thorn Chapel is interesting. I think the characters and their relationships and the polyamory, very interesting, very sexy. I really do enjoy my time reading these books. In fact, I enjoyed 99% of this book and was going to give it 4 stars. And I just need to spoil the ending of the novel to explain why I think this book is so fucking atrocious. And if you don't want to know the spoilers, I'll put a timestamp down below as to when I stop talking about it. So once this banner goes away, feel free to come back. We spent this entire book pining over a male-male relationship, and these 2 characters are pining over each other for years. The angst here. We read about their budding relationship for 482 damn pages, only to find out that they are half-brothers. Didn't expect an incest plot. And then, not only are they half-brothers, but one of the brothers knew that they were half-brothers and consummated their love. I have a feeling that that spoiler is not the case. I think Sierra Simone has a bigger plan for the series. I will continue into the 3rd book, but the reason this is my worst book of the year is because I think that that is such a shitty thing to do to your readers. On literally, and I'm not even kidding, literally the last page of the book. So now that we ended it on that note, I hope you enjoyed. So these are some of the worst books I read in 2020. The best books of 2020 video will be coming right after this one. Click the link down below to subscribe, like this video. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let's have a civil conversation down below in the comments. I hope you enjoyed. I don't know how to end these things, so I guess I will see you next time. Bye!